Hello guys, Volcano here and welcome to another deck profile. In this one, I will be going through my first place list from a 14-man Discord tournament. The server that this tournament was held in, I'll link in the description below. And we'll discuss the tournament a bit more towards the end of the video. That tournament in particular was 4 rounds of Swiss with a top cut of the top 4 players. Each of the Swiss rounds were best of 1, and the top cut was the best of 3 without siding. So unlike the other deck profile that I've done on the channel, I don't have a side deck here. So onto the deck list, I brought to the tournament Pressure Order, also known as Secret Order Dragon. I've done a video on a similar deck a while back on the same channel. I'll have an icon pop up to that deck probably around this time. Basically, if you've watched that one, it is a similar concept, but I've decided to take a more safe approach to building the deck, basically. Let's get talking about the concept of the deck. For those that don't know what this deck is, the main goal of the deck is to use Dragonic Pressure to wipe your opponent's board and then follow it up with a big amount of damage. Following the Dragonic Pressure up with cards like the Secret Order and the Parallel Birth Gate, or just tribute summoning a 2 tribute monster and smacking them in the face for a lot of damage. Now let's get talking about the contents of the deck. Firstly, for our 2 tribute monsters, as this is a Secret Order Gate Parallel Birth Gate adjacent deck, we are on quite a few 2 tribute monsters. 9 copies of cards or 2 tribute monsters to be exact. We have 2 Steelstrike Dragon Metagias, 2 Zerogias the Nullstriking Dragon, and 2 copies of the Multistrike Dragon Dragias, as well as the 3 copies of Volcano Attack Dragon. The Metagias, Zerogias, and Dragias here are our main beaters of the deck that are on our normal monster Secret Order targets. Dragias is just really good. I've put him in a couple of deck lists already, even outside of dragon themed decks. He's just very efficient, doesn't cost anything basically, and just amounts a lot of offensive pressure. It is very welcome here as it is a dragon which lines up very well into certain cards in our deck. Zerogias is here as the deck really likes additional ways of getting past your opponent's high base stat monsters, or just in general like 2500 attack monsters that your monsters will otherwise have to crash into. Our deck has a couple ways of dealing with those types of threats outside of the Zerogias, like the Secret Order, the Dragonic Pressure, Tenacity Dragon, and the Mirror Force, but Zerogias is nice to have as it is fetchable off of the Phoenix Dragon that we'll go over later on. Overall, just a very nice card. There is a card called Metagias that has a similar effect, but that card only targets level 7 or lower and can target 2 of them and lower their attacks by 1500 each. I like running Zerogias more as it is safer than Metagias in that it can target level 8 monsters. Now, Metagias has an advantage in its format as there are a lot of level 7s running around. Like Gate Order is a deck that is infested with level 7s, same with Thunderbolt. But I just thought that the environment that the tournament took place in, there's a lot of likelihood that people won't immediately jump on like Gate Order like Thunderbolt and potentially play more rogue picks like Worms, like Caligullion decks, and maybe even Fusion Warrior that have like level 8s that Metagias will otherwise be unable to touch. And just to sum it up, I'm just playing it very safe and playing Zerogias over the Metagias. If you expect your environment to be extremely competitive, you can try out the Metagias as it should theoretically work out fine and have get to that high ceiling a lot more common than a less competitive environment. But just to be safe, I decided to bring the Zerogias instead. So the Metagias is here to counter cards like the Dark Revelation, like the Mirror Force, like the Hard Offense Mission, just like those kinds of traps, just in case. It's really nice to have this just in case you run into those kinds of decks. And again, I wanted to be safe, so I included some copies of this to have the option of denying your opponent from using those kinds of traps, which did come up in the tournament, which is pretty good. 3 Volcano Attack Dragon. These are just here as your secret order targets. Basically mandatory for this deck to have these kinds of targets. Otherwise, secret order doesn't function. And it has to be specifically Volcano Attack Dragon because it is a dragon for the Dragon Pressure. More on that later when we talk about the spells more. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the best stats. But it's worth it to have the dragon typing so that you can discard it off of Dragonic Pressure later on. 2 copies each of the Fire Dragon, Dragorite, and the Sylphydra. So this makes up 6 total level 4 1500 attack beat sticks. They're beat sticks. They are good aggressive cards that you can just drop down, push for big damage. And these can also be used to attack defense position set monsters very easily, as level 4, the defense stat on low level monsters, so level 1 to level 4, may cap out at 1500 attack, 1500 defense, but those are very uncommon, and 1400 defense monsters are more common than 1500 defense monsters, and 1500 is a bigger number than 1400, so you can use your Dragorites and whatnot to beat over those very easily. So they're just very safe attackers effectively. The specific type of 1500 attack beater, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is it is a dragon for the Dragonic Pressure. Otherwise you can consider like min-maxing the attribute to play against different field spells. Like Dragorite you can use to counter Verdant Vegetation since it doesn't get debuffed by it. The Fire Dragon you can use to counter like Baseball with the Hot Blooded Spirit Stadium, which boosts fire attribute monsters. The Sylphydra, there is the Wind Beatdown with the Following World that you can counter also. It's like very min-maxy and overall doesn't matter since the only one that really shows up is the Verdant Vegetation, and that's not necessarily the most common variant. I think I've seen more of the more standard variant than the Verdant Vegetation variant, but it is still a competent deck. So like, I guess if you really wanted to completely min-max, you could choose to run more copies of Dragorite, or depending on the environment you're playing in, maybe like more copies of the Fire Dragon to cover Baseball, or Sylphydra to cover Wind Beatdown matches. But it's very min-maxy and doesn't really matter that much. Like 2-2-2 split like maybe comes up to like give more coverage of what matchups your deck can go into better. Like overall doesn't really matter that much, but if you want to, you can definitely min-max this. All that matters is they are dragons, they are low level beat sticks. 3 copies of Phoenix Dragon, one of the best dragon cards in the game. Allows you to fetch any dragon that is level 5 or higher from your grave and just add it to your hand for a cost of a discard. Super nice card. You can use it to grab your Dragias from your graveyard and just keep mounting offensive pressure. If you're in the pinch, you can grab the Volcano Attack Dragon if you really just need a 2 tribute monster, and like grabbing like a Metagias to make sure you are immune to traps for longer, which is a good play if you're in those kinds of matchups, or just grabbing a Zerogias if you need to debuff something, which is a very nice interaction. This makes like a debuffing dragon pretty good for the deck, as it has a niche in being able to be added off of the Phoenix Dragon, so that you can basically get an on-demand debuffer basically. This isn't like fully on-demand, as you still need like the high level dragon to discard, which Phoenix Dragon can also help with if you really need that additional body to discard. Like you can go Phoenix Dragon at Dragias, normal summon Zerogias, discard the Dragias that you added off of the Phoenix Dragon. Yeah, just sometimes Phoenix Dragon can help add fodder for the Zerogias or the Metagias, or vice versa. Just very versatile card, just super nice card for dragons to have. Tenacity Dragon is important to have since Volcano Attack Dragon has problems outing a lot of monsters like Mirror Innovator, like the Tough Striker, Die Up, Max Raider, Dracrush, and so on. Just all of those have a higher base stat than the Volcano Attack Dragon. And without the secret order to back it up, you wouldn't be able to beat over anything with this card. Except maybe like 7-Throat Magician, I guess, I don't know. And the Tenacity Dragon really helps you beat those monsters with the Volcano Attack Dragon, which is very important to have. It also helps your Dragias and your other dragons in similar situations, which is why I really like this card in this deck. 3 copies of Sportsdragon Slugger and Pitcher. These are here to help you more consistently tribute summon your dragons. We are not on a lot of low level monsters because we wanted to make space for more spells, which is why having additional fodder to special summon and just get the tribute fodder off is very important for this deck. And it also has additional functionality that I'll go over when we talk about the spells more. Well, speaking of the spells, 3 copies of Ship of 7 Treasures, which is a consistency piece that allows you to empty your hand from bricks and just draw into new cards. This can also help you set up your Volcano Attack Dragons in grave to special summon with the secret order. Yeah, it's important to have something that unbricks you, that accelerates you towards your game plan faster. Just overall super nice card to have. In my previous deck list that I talked about that is similar to this one, the Gate Order Dragon, I was running the Scale Liberation. Both cards are good. They differ in that Scale Liberation more consistently helps you get to that win con faster, like setting up your grave for the Secret Order and the Parallel Birth Gates. Ship of 7 Treasures is more for consistently not bricking. As like, if you flip a Scale Liberation and mill top 5, your, like, let's say your 3 level 7s in the hand aren't going to unclog themselves, and Ship of 7 Treasures can do that, but the Scale Liberation cannot. So that's the selling point of why I'm running this over that card. 3 copies of the Dragon Pressure. This is the main point of the deck, so we are running 3 copies of it. For people who don't know the full effect, this is what it does is it sends 3 dragon type monsters from your hand to the grave to then destroy all monsters on the field. Then if you destroyed a monster by this effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower dragon type monster from your grave to your field in face up defense position. So it wipes your board, it wipes the entire board, and then it special summons any low level dragon from your grave to the field face up. With unfortunately in defense position, so you can't like grab a Dragorite and just like deal 1500 damage for free. But it can still do things like grab a Phoenix Dragon to set up a high level dragon in your hand. Or you can just grab the Tenacity Dragon as the highest defense dragon in the deck. Or you can grab a Slugger or a Pitcher to then special summon the counterpart. And then afterwards, like, you can tribute summon something from your hand. So you can go Dragonic Pressure, wipe the board, special summon Slugger, Slugger effect to special summon Pitcher, and then maybe you have a Dragias in your hand that you can then tribute the Sports Dragons and then get the Dragias on the field and then swing for 2500 damage. Which basically make Dragonic Pressure free 2500 damage, which is pretty strong. And if you have the Secret Order alongside it, even more damage, which is incredible. 1 copy of the Parallel Birth Gate. This is basically the 4th copy of Secret Order in this deck. This would normally be maybe like a Magical Stone Excavation, but like Magical Stone Excavation also discarding cards means it is very awkward to work with the Dragonic Pressure, which requires 3 copies of cards to be discarded. So yeah, needing to activate 2 spells that like discard 3 and then discard 2 is like very hefty cost. Which is why like just running a similar card is better than running the Stone Excavation to retrieve the Secret Order again. Birthgate is slightly different from the Secret Order in that it can special summon 2 cards. And it doesn't need to be a level 7 normal specifically, it just needs to be a normal monster. So you can special summon even like the Dragorites or the Sylphydras or the Fire Dragons alongside your what it should be your Volcano Attack Dragons. The difference is that it doesn't buff the monsters and it doesn't give them the trap protection, which is why the Secret Order is still better. And the Parallel Birth Gate still needs you to have no cards in hand to get the full effect, which can be awkward sometimes, but if you're playing it with the pressure, you can use the pressure to empty your hand so you can get to your Birth Gate condition easier. 3 copies of Secret Order. Again, the main point of the deck, you're supposed to use this with the pressure to get big damage. This is why we are running 3 copies of this. A very strong card regardless. Just gets played in a lot of decks. It's just so strong. 2 copies of Dragon Inferno. I was originally not on back row hate because I was thinking the pressure plus Secret Order should invalidate most back row anyway. But I then realized that you're not always going to get this combo off. Sometimes you'll like pressure, get the Slugger plus Pitcher plus 2/3 monster, or pressure plus power above gate, and then suddenly it doesn't invalidate. Suddenly it then doesn't just invalidate some traps like Dark Revelation or Mirror Force. And like sometimes you don't even get the Dragonic pressure, and just need to beat your opponent down with Dragias and Zerogias. So like having Dragon Inferno for those kinds of situations, where you can't get your main combo and just need to beat your opponent down with raw power, is a very nice situations for your Dragon Inferno to pop up and just like start popping things. Even if it doesn't pop like traps, it can also pop like important spells that your opponent may be running, like let's say Gate Order. Maybe you pop something like a Secret Order, or the Judgment of the Rising Light, or the Card Devastation, and so on and so forth. Like, even if it's not hitting traps, it's probably hitting something important, which is why I like it. And finally, Mirror Force, very strong card. I've used this in a lot of my decks that I've covered on this channel. Super strong card, helps you win games you shouldn't. And it's kind of a 4th board wipe together with the Dragonic Pressure, not as proactive as the Dragonic Pressure. Well, technically Dragonic Pressure is a reactive card, since you're normally using it to respond to a unsolvable board state, but it is more reactive in the sense that it is a trap and you can't ever use it in an aggressive manner. Whereas Dragonic Pressure, even if you're winning, if you just want to win the game that turn, you can like Dragonic Pressure. If your opponent is on the back foot, you just end the game there with your Secret Orders and whatnot. And Mirror Force can't do that, but it is still a trap that has a lot of impact on the game. Just like Mirror Forcing them, if you're losing, can really help regain you a lot of tempo. And or you can just use it to maintain tempo by like using it when you're winning, just to secure the board state. And like even if you're behind, you can still get in a lot of damage with the Secret Orders and whatnot. So yeah, one Mirror Force can really help you win the game on the spot just by activating it. Overall, super strong card. You can consider other things like a Monster Reborn as a 5th copy of the Secret Order, or Graceful just to be more consistent in digging through brick hands. But overall, Mirror Force is just very nice to have, especially since it is the only piece of interaction in the deck. If you'll notice, this is the only trap in the deck, which is why I really like having some form of interaction. So like the one-off Mirror Force is pretty nice to make sure I don't die sometimes, and that's why it's in the deck. Now let's get on to talking about the tournament for a brief bit. So this is the pie chart for the tournament that I participated in. This was a 14-man tournament, with the most represented deck being Gate Order at 5 people playing the deck in the tournament, which adds up to 35.7% according to this pie chart. It is worth noting that this Gate Order category combined like the Dragon variants and the standard variants all together into one category. So it is not purely just the more standard version of Gate Order, but it is worth noting it is still like 35% of the field brought a Gate Order adjacent strategy. The first and second place decks were from this category. The first place was my Dragon deck that I've already covered already, and the second place one was a Thunderbolt variant that was quite interesting. Third place was the Spellcaster, the Fusion Spellcaster variant with the Master of 7th Road. It's a very interesting deck to have gotten to third place. They won like 4-0 in these 4 Swiss rounds that led up to the Swiss card, the top card rather. But then I beat them in semi-finals and then won the entire thing from there. I don't think Fusion Spellcaster is that good in this format, just because like Thunderbolt stomps you out because you're a slower control deck, and the Gate Order has outs to your Master of 7th Road with Judgment plus Card Death, or just Judgment if you have an empty hand. So yeah, I just think that the deck has some issues in the current format, which makes it less ideal. But if it ever does become more popular, people can start trying out 7th Road Enchanter to counter the Master of 7th Road. But they did get to 3rd place with a 4-0 Swiss record, which is pretty impressive already. I have some problems with their deck list, which speaking of, we'll go over the all of the top card deck lists in this video later on, excluding my own one since I've already covered that one. But yeah, just the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place deck list I'll cover later on. Speaking of 4th place, it's not listed here, but the 4th place is the Reptile deck, which is the most surprising thing in the top card here. Reptile just doesn't have a lot going for it. Its best payoff is Caligullion, and Caligullion is a generic card that can be played in every deck, theoretically. So it doesn't have a lot going for it as to why you would want to play a more pure strategy for Reptiles, which is exactly what this 4th place list was. Just overall not much reason to play pure Reptile, and it's very surprising as to why it got here into 4th place. And for people who are more familiar with the format already, you will note that there are a lot of unorthodox lists here, very uncommon strategies like Fusion Thunder is not something you'd expect to see. Fire Beast is not something you expect to see. Obviously, the Reptile is something you definitely not expect to see. The Plant is very uncommon deck also. I think Plant has some legs in this format since it is a control deck that can beat out Gate Order, potentially. But they already have some Thunderbolt problems, so that's an issue that they'd have to cross if they get into that matchup. But Plant is not that bad. It has problems, but it's not the worst deck they can be bringing. And like there's also the maximum decks here that are quite surprising. Just overall quite diverse decks that were brought to this tournament. No like Dragoncaster, no machines, which is somewhat surprising. But like outside of these unorthodox decks, the like 5 Gate Order and the 1 Thunderbolt, there's technically 2 Thunderbolts here, because one of them is the 2nd place list, so there's 2 Thunderbolts and the 5 Gate Order. But yeah, like outside of the uncommon deck list, it's these like the more popular decks that were brought here were more indicative of the actual format. Let's get on to looking at the top 4 lists that weren't mine, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place list. So this is the 2nd place list from the tournament. This is the Gate Order Thunderbolt build that is looking to combine the Gate Order, the standard Gate Order deck, running all these like normal monsters with the card draw and the Secret Order plus the Parallel Above Gate, and also combining that with the Thunderbolt package in 3 Thunderbolt, 1 Melody, 2 Howling Bird, and like, I guess the Sensor Duckbill is part of the package also. Like I guess the idea is it's taking the best part of the Thunderbolt package and putting it into this deck for like basically a finisher. And like theoretically, both of the like Gate Order and the Thunderbolt deck both like benefit off the same thing in that they like their card draw and their like their milling, their consistency. Just like all these drawing and consistency pieces can like accelerate you to both your Secret Order and Parallel Above Gate as well as the Thunderbolt win con. So that's the idea behind that. I do think there are other things you could be trying out here, like Maw and Race Scale Liberation can go well with the Melody Thunderbolt combo. Just additional targets for Thunderbolt would be pretty nice. Like, it's less so of more targets for Thunderbolt, but like more good targets for Thunderbolt, since like outside of the Melody, you don't really like reborning any of these. Like outside of the Melody, your best target to get off the Thunderbolt is your Task Striker, I guess, which is not very appealing. I'd probably suggest playing like a Dragias or a Shock Dragon. Both of those are pretty good in this deck. Like Shock Dragon as a like precaution against potential maximum decks. Those don't come that often, but I always like just having one just in case. And Dragias really ups your damage output. Really helps you like get in a lot of damage in some situations. And card depth is something that is like notably absent in this deck. Normally in normal Gate Order, you'd combine the Card Devastation with the Judgment of the Rising Light, and it's very surprising that it's not in this deck list. At least like I play at least one copy of Card Devastation just in case. personally speaking. Like against maximum decks, you really want to make sure you have a card devastation to make sure you can beat over those maximum decks. Like again, just in case, those decks aren't very common, but in case you play against those decks, it's nice to have like a Shock Dragon to get all the Thunderbolt, or a card devastation to combo with the Judgment to go for game from there. Like this deck has a lot of damage output, a lot of burst damage rather, and even if your opponent has a maximum monster setup, if you have the card devastation plus Judgment, you're probably winning on that turn because of just how much damage you can deal in a single turn. But yeah, overall not a bad list. I definitely try some other card choices over certain cards in the deck, like the ones I've mentioned already. But overall not a bad list, very interesting concept. One more thing before I go to the third place list. I feel like this concept of the deck is a bit greedy, in the sense that it, like, ideally if you get everything the deck wants, like if you get your aggressive pressure with your Secret Order plus Parallel Birth Gate combo, or like towards the late game you get your Thunderbolt package online and stuff. Like if you get those going online, no problem. The deck has a lot of potential with that early aggression with the Gate Order package and the like potential late game payoff with the Thunderbolt, and like this payoff, I guess. Like if everything goes smoothly, the deck seems pretty good. But if it doesn't, the deck looks to be worse than it's the two halves of the inspiration. Like it feels like it would feel like a less consistent standard Gate Order deck, and it will feel like a less powerful Thunderbolt deck. But like for what it's worth, for this concept, this list looks pretty good. And next up is the Fusion Spellcaster deck that got third place. You can see this is running a lot of spellcasters, and it's very close to what a like quote-unquote pure deck would look like. As such, like, there are running cards that I wouldn't run, just so that they can see that they are a pure deck. Like the Wiz, the Beast Summoner, these two cards are like conventionally very bad, and they are only here because it boosts the Master of Seven Throats attack. For the people that don't know what this does, it gains attack equal to the number of Dark Attribute Spellcaster monsters with different names in your grave, and multiplies that by 300. And if you have 7 or more Dark Attribute Spellcaster type monsters in your grave, doesn't have to be different name, then this card gains Piercing, which it's a pretty nice boss monster. It gets really big, and yeah, it just gets really big in some situations, and it's just overall not bad. But there are a lot of outs to this card, like a Dark Revelation can destroy it since it isn't protected from trap effects. Ace Breaker can pop it, and Judgment of the Rising Light can bounce it. There's just a lot of ways to answer a Master of Seven Throw in my opinion, but not a lot of decks are prepared to out it. Like not a lot of the rogue strategies are prepared to out it, I guess. Moving back to the Wiz and the Beast Summoner, as well as the Warlock. There are definitely better cards that you can play over this, as well as the Dark Magician Girl here. There are definitely better cards that you can play here if you are fine with not playing pure, I guess. Well, I mean, I could just say that you can play stuff like Mystic Dealer, and that would be really good since you can increase consistency in finding your Master of Seven Throat pieces. And even Whispering Fairy would be a pretty good one since extra graveyard hit is pretty nice into this format, going to like Thunderbolt and Gate Order and whatnot. But yeah, those are definitely better choices compared to the these additional Dark Attribute names for Master of Seven Throat. I just think that better utility, like more general utility monsters, is better than additional 300 attack on Master of Seven Throat. Dark Resonance Burst here is a cute choice, I guess. It's free 1000 damage, I guess, in certain situations, but I feel like I would play more consistency pieces, like an Enraged Skill Liberation would be a pretty good one. Would be a pretty good choice in my opinion. Just like Having the mill 5 allows you to get to your Dark Revelation faster in like filling up your grave with Spellcasters, or getting to your 7th row Sorcerer faster in like filling your grave with your Magician and your Witch to then fetch it back out with the Sorcerer, or just filling up your grave with more names for the Master of 7th row. I'd definitely consider running this card over the Dark Resonance Burst. It just does more for the deck in my opinion. Rider Cross is interesting. It's very cute, I guess. There are definitely better 2 tribute monsters to play in this slot if you really want to. Dragias, Acebreaker, those are pretty good ones. Just overall, there are a lot of very good 2 tribute monsters that you can play over this Raider Cross. It's very cute because it has a fusion with another Dark Spellcaster in the deck. But I feel like the low floor of having to play Raider Cross is not worth it, in my opinion. There are just better cards to play here that are more consistently good. And Roadstar Swordsman, not very good in my opinion. I think the payoff in Paladin isn't very good. Obviously, if you were given a choice, you'd always make Master over the Paladin. Paladin just gets big, but it doesn't get big on both players' turns, so it's only okay. It can help you win games sometimes in like just getting big and dealing all damage, but it's just not very worth it when you can play other more like monsters with more general utility, I guess. Moving to the 4th place list, this is the Reptile deck. You can notice this is 60 cards. I don't like 60 cards for this, but it's very funny, I guess. The reason why I don't like 60 cards in like this kind of deck is that it makes it harder for you to get to your main win con, which is in this deck your Acidicis Caligulaon. So it's just inconsistent in trying to find this card, and that's my main problem with it. Also, you're like, in this deck in particular, you're padding the deck out with a lot of like conventionally bad cards like the Metal Megallion, your Hot Flame Leon, your Emperor of the Land at Sea. Just like all of these very underwhelming cards are being put here just so that it can get to that 60 card number. And in my opinion, that's just not worth it. I'd rather just cut down the deck to around 40, maybe 45 if you're worried about decking out. I have a deck that I did on Reptiles a while back that I'll probably put up in the icon somewhere. But yeah, I wouldn't play this. I wouldn't play Reptiles at 60 cards, but it is very funny. Just definitely not something I expect to see topping a tournament anytime soon. One interesting thing to note is that both the 3rd and 4th place lists are decks that make a big sick on that have high attack on both players' turns. Like the Master of 7th Road gets really big on both players' turns, and it's relatively easy to make compared to something like an Yggdrago, like a maximum monster. Since like Master of 7th Road you can get your materials out with just the 7th Road Sorcerer. You can go Sorcerer, Sack 3, get your Magician and Witch at the same time, and then get the fusion. Maybe you have it already, you can just activate it and it just fuse into the Master. Or just like you can even like naturally just draw into it. Like just normal summon something, tribute summon Witch effect, discard for Magician, and then just fusion. It's a lot easier in my opinion to get Master of 7th Road up and running compared to like an Yggdrago. And like despite the fact that this is 60 cards, in theory Acidicis Caligulaon is just a 2 tribute monster that can get really big on both players' turns. So yeah, both of these decks just like make like big monsters relatively easily, which maybe had a part in why they got to top 4 as opposed to other decks that people brought. But that's just speculation. I don't really have data to back that up. And those were the top 4 decks that the other people that weren't me that got to top 4 with. Very interesting decks. I'm definitely surprised that the 3rd place and 4th place lists are these decks. In any case, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.